In the heart of 15th century Eastern Europe, as massive empires rose and fell, a single man would carve his name into history. Not with diplomacy or peace, but with blood, vengeance, and fear. His name was Vlad III of Wallachia. History remembers him as Vlad the Impaler. Legend turned him into Dracula. But beyond the myth of fangs and immortality lies a far more terrifying reality. A true story of captivity, war, and ruthless resistance against one of the most powerful empires the world has ever known, the Ottomans. Vlad was born in 1431 in Transylvania, into the House of Draculesti, a noble family locked in a deadly struggle for control of Wallachia, a small but strategically vital region between Christian Europe and the expanding Muslim Ottoman Empire. His father, Vlad II, was a member of the Order of the Dragon, a chivalric group created to defend Christian lands from the Turks. But Wallachia was no stranger to betrayal, and survival meant playing a dangerous game of shifting alliances. When pressure mounted, Vlad II was forced to send two of his sons, Vlad and his younger brother Radu, as political hostages to the court of Sultan Mehmed II. In the palaces of the Ottomans, the young Vlad witnessed power, decadence, and cruelty on an imperial scale. While Radu adapted, converting to Islam and becoming a favorite of the future Sultan Mehmed II, Vlad seethed with resentment. He absorbed the Ottomans' methods of control, their strategy and their brutality, not to emulate them, but to one day use their own weapons against them. When he was finally released, Vlad returned to a homeland in chaos. His father had been assassinated. His elder brother buried alive. Wallachia was now torn by civil war, with boyars and rival princes vying for dominance. Outnumbered and surrounded by treachery, Vlad clawed his way to the throne multiple times, using not charm or compromise, but sheer terror. He imposed absolute authority over a fractured state by eliminating his enemies through mass executions, mutilations, and the method that earned him his infamous title, impalement. Thousands of criminals, rebellious nobles, and political opponents were skewered on massive wooden stakes, their bodies displayed as public warnings. It wasn't random violence. It was calculated psychological warfare, aimed at turning fear into obedience. But Vlad's most infamous chapter came when he challenged the might of the Ottoman Empire itself. In the 1460s, Sultan Mehmed II, the conqueror of Constantinople, demanded tribute from Wallachia. Vlad not only refused, he launched a full-scale resistance. He led deadly night raids across the Danube, ambushed Ottoman troops, burned villages, poisoned wells, and left fields barren to starve enemy armies. When Mehmed finally led a massive force of over 100,000 men to crush Vlad, the Sultan was met not with open battle, but something far worse, a horrifying scene outside the capital city of Targovist. Over 20,000 Ottoman soldiers and prisoners had been impaled on towering wooden stakes, stretching across the landscape in grotesque silence. The smell of death was overwhelming. Even the hardened Mehmed was shaken. He turned back, unwilling to push further into a land so deeply entrenched in madness and defiance. But despite his victories, Vlad's rule was not secure. His brutality had made him enemies at home and abroad. The Ottomans backed his brother Radu as a rival prince, and the Hungarian king Matthias Corvinus, once a potential ally, imprisoned Vlad under political pressure. He spent over a decade in captivity before being released to make one final attempt to reclaim his throne. His return was brief. In 1476, he was ambushed, likely betrayed by his own men, and decapitated. His head was sent to Mehmed II in Constantinople, preserved in honey, a gruesome trophy of revenge. His body was buried in an unmarked grave. His kingdom vanished. But his legend did not. Centuries later, an Irish writer named Bram Stoker would come across tales of this Wallachian prince while researching Eastern European folklore. He borrowed the name Dracula, combined it with older vampire legends, and created a fictional monster who sleeps in coffins, drinks blood, and lives forever. But the real Dracula did not need supernatural powers to terrify. He ruled not by drinking blood, but by spilling it. He didn't haunt castles, he controlled real fortresses. His immortality lies not in fiction, but in history. Vlad the Impaler remains one of the most complex and debated figures in European history. To some, he was a national hero who stood as a wall against Ottoman conquest. To others, a sadistic tyrant who used cruelty without restraint. But the truth lies somewhere in between. A man shaped by captivity, war, betrayal, and the brutal realities of medieval politics. He was both victim and executioner, ruler and rebel, legend and man. And in a world where power was everything, he proved that fear could be a weapon more powerful than any army. This is the real story of Dracula. Not a vampire from a Gothic novel, but a prince who defied an empire, turned his country into a fortress of terror, and whose legacy continues to haunt history long after his death.